Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And I remain your host, Darlington. Today's guest is Colonel Kenny. He's a retired soldier, construction professional, author, humorist, and unapologetic storyteller whose life has been anything but ordinary. Colonel Kenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, Darlington. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so I would like you to add a little bit to that introduction.
I am living the dream, man. I live in East Tennessee. I'm retired and I do what I want. So, I guess I am a humorist. I was looking at some of the questions that you had for me and whatnot, and I use humor naturally. And I look forward to the conversation as far as we kind of dig a little bit deeper as to why that is and how it can be helpful. Are you still with me, Darlington? Well, Darlington, I think you may have dropped the call. However, it's still rolling. So I'd like to tell the audience about my book, Scoundrels in Iraq, An Engineer's Adventures by Ken Dupar. He introduced me as Colonel Kenny. And anybody who were to say something that ridiculous, I mean, that is my nom de guerre, my war name. But regardless of that, I don't take myself too seriously, and that should be readily apparent. Oh, here we go.
All right, Colonel Kenny. So, during your introduction, I read about how you are a humorist. So, hopefully, in this episode, we get to get a laugh or two. So, moving on, I have some questions here for you, and I would like us to get into them.
Absolutely. Bring
Okay,
it on.
so you often use humor to tell stories about difficult experience. Many at times I have girls, a lot of girls who say that's how men talk about their difficult experience. They often use humor. So, why do you believe laughter can be one of the best ways to process trauma and hardship?
Yeah, people want to ask that question. I think you should be just naturally funny. It's like you got to be able to laugh at yourself before you can really laugh at other people. And it reminds me of an incident when I had just gotten to Iraq where I lost positive control over my M16, my rifle. Have you ever been in the Army, Darlington?
Yeah.
You have? Well, then you know that it isn't the Army's rifle. I mean, it isn't your rifle. It's the Army's rifle. And losing positive control of it is one of the most frightening things that you could possibly imagine. And I was at Camp Virginia in Kuwait. We had just gotten there. And there's thousands of soldiers. Everything looks the same. The Humvees look the same. The tents look the same. I got into the back of a Humvee to get a ride to the post exchange. And I jumped out of the Humvee. The Humvee sped away. And before I knew, I'm like, well, my rifle's in the back of the Humvee. The guy takes a left. He takes a right. And the next thing you know, I don't have my weapon, which after like 20 years in the Army, that means it's over. I'm done. And in the total panic, I went running around looking for this Humvee. Of course, they all look the same. And I just got a ride from somebody. I've never been so scared in my life, okay? I guess you could say it was traumatic. At any rate, I opened up the doors of a dozen Humvees until 5, and it was almost dark. I finally found my weapon. I took out my flashlight. I verified the serial number, and it was my weapon. And as I described it in my book, I was shaking like a dog pooping razor blades. Now, let me ask you something, Darlington. Have you ever seen a dog shake when he was trying to poop? You ever seen that before?
Not really.
Okay, but okay, it happens. Like especially like those little shaky dogs. And so I'm making fun of myself because it was very traumatic. I mean, my whole life was passing. I mean, my career could have been over. Okay. And so I compared myself to a little dog pooping. Does that make sense? So how is that useful? I don't know. That's just how my brain
Yeah,
works.
sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. And it signifies that, when people love talking about trauma. Okay. It's kind of like learn from it and move on. Don't dwell on it, but you got to remember and you got to mark it. And so humor was like the only way I could. I mean, I was visibly shaking like a leaf on a tree. I was so scared. What's your next question? Hit me with your best shot.
Okay. One of the themes you have explored is our fear of death. How do you think that fear influences the way people make decisions, build relationships, and live their lives?
Fear is the fear. People fear what they don't understand, you know? And so if you educate yourself, then the fear dispenses. A lot of people just want to wallow in ignorance. I don't really have. Well, okay, fine. So I went to war. Okay. You're afraid of going to war, which you should be, because fear keeps you alive, Darlington. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're driving your car. I'm afraid of like having a head-on collision. So you know what I do? I don't. I stay in the lane. You pay attention to what's going on. Fear is very useful.
Okay. I didn't know you were done with your answer.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, moving on, you have shared some remarkable stories from your military years, including the claim that you stood away to get to war. What happened and what did that experience teach you?
That I stowed away allegedly to go to war. Well, yeah, that's what I wrote down. I was about to deploy to Iraq for the first time, and we were about a week out, and the Army finally figured out that I have a heart condition. And they were going to not only ship me home, but probably process me out, which meant after the 17 or 18 years that I had in the Army, I was done. No retirement, but done. And so I went home on a 4-day leave. I saw my cardiologist. He wrote me this really stupid letter. I took it back there, and I tried to get to the hospital. Well, I went to the hospital on a Sunday night, and I found the place where we had all of our medical records for our unit. And people can read it for themselves. But let's just say that 10 months later, when I was in Iraq, somehow the hospital where I was at previously, they found my medical records. Apparently, it had been lost. It was like behind a desk or something like that. Now, I wanted to go to Iraq because it would be good for my career. It was like my Super Bowl. It's like the big game, Darlington. You're never going to be tested like going to war. You're just not, because everything's on the line. And I didn't want to have the shame of not missing out, but just, I have a heart condition, therefore I can't go. It's like, it's because it's going to be hot. I work construction. I'm outside during the summertime doing concrete formwork. I'm going to be okay. But yeah, my medical records got lost, and then they were found. And then they said, Kenny, you're not supposed to be in Iraq. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, what should we do? Well, they said, we're going to send you home. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm totally down with that. I've had enough of this baloney. So yeah, send me home. And I went into what they call medical hold, and I continued my shenanigans there. And what did I learn? Well, it pays to be lucky. And I begged the battalion commander to take me. And he took a chance, and he did. And I was one of the few people who he took a chance on, and it worked out wonderfully. And all this is allegedly. This allegedly happened. I write fiction. I don't want there to be a court martial. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. So, moving on. One of your books compares beauty through the lens of classic cars and pin-up models. What inspired that unusual combination, and what does it say about how we define beauty?
That's a great question. It's cliche for me to respond that way, but what do you mean? What's unusual? I mean, I'm talking about American automobiles, okay, or just automobiles in general. It can be a work of art, the body styling, then you have the power plant, the engine, and just the technology, in order so that you have the freedom to go from anywhere that you want. It's pure Americana, okay? And so when you take a look at the curves from the fenders to the entire body style, we describe it as being sleek. You have pinstriping, you have fashion. It is completely analogous to how, like fashion that you would have as far as clothing is concerned. You have skirts on a car. You have skirts. Women have skirts. There's the hood of a car is called a bonnet. Okay, so just like you would put a bonnet on a child way back when, and on and on and on it goes. Headlamps could look like breasts, maybe little ones, big ones. I mean, yeah, you understand what I'm saying, Darlington. This isn't really a stretch of the imagination. And oh, by the way, boys like girls, girls like boys. It's all natural, and it's like making love in the backseat of a car, Darlington. It's a good thing.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken.
You bet.
So, yeah. So, your experience in Iraq included some unexpected roles, including working as a boxing promoter. How
Yeah.
did that come about, and what did it reveal about leadership and morale?
Morale is super important in that if people are miserable, you can't get as much work out of them. You understand what I'm saying? So you give them opportunities to call home, receive mail, have time off, go someplace cool. In my case, because I was the executive officer of the headquarters company, I was able to purchase about $2,000 a month in whatever type of stuff I wanted. And so I bought weightlifting equipment so that people could work out. So you get exercise. We built a running track because I had a asphalt section. We built a running track. We're engineers. We can do stuff like that. And so the runners, the rabbits out there, they could get their stress relief, and that makes them feel better. And then you can make them work harder. It's all about accomplishing the mission and taking care of your soldiers always. But it was coming up on the 4th of July, and we had come from Iowa, and I'm like, let's have a party for the 4th of July. This is just 2003. We're in Iraq. No one knows what's going on. Let's have a party. I mean, that's the way my brain works. And I was looking around for some recreational equipment that someone thought that we had brought from Iowa. And I found a magic box, and it had baseball gloves and volleyball nets, volleyballs, baseballs, and boxing gloves. Now, I don't know if you know this, Darlington, but in war, watching people beat the hell out of each other is really cathartic. It's a lot of fun. And because we're engineers, all I had to do is build a boxing ring. And so I had the fellas build a boxing ring, and now I had to promote it. And I was going around asking people if they wanted to fight, and it took a couple of days. I ended up advertising on Armed Forces Radio later on. But the weird thing is Darlington, is that the most famous boxing promoter of all times is Don King. Now, Don King is black. I mean, Don King promoted the Thrilla in Manila with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. Okay, so some people might know who he was, might not know who he was, but he had spiky black hair. At any rate, Don King was a great guy. So I was acting like I was Don King, but I was in Iraq, and I'm a white guy. So that must mean that I was acting like Don King, but I'm white, and I'm in Baghdad. So that must mean that I'm the white Don King of Baghdad. And so I wrote a chapter about it a couple of years later. I had an enormous amount of fun. And even women were fighting too, and people had just all kinds of fun. Yeah. So basically, watching people beat up on each other is great stress relief. Hit me with your next question. Ha ha. Hit. Get it? Play on words.
You so much. So, having served alongside many outstanding service members, tell us what strengths you have seen women consistently bring to military leadership and operations.
Who brings? I mean, like you're talking about what do Americans bring to leadership?
What do women bring to military leadership and operations?
Well, there's no difference between women and men as far as your intellectual capacity or your emotional intelligence. It's not as if they have like a handful of magic beans. What's the difference? Either you can do the job or you can't. Either people like working with you or they don't. Either you apply leadership principles or you're just too ignorant to learn. I mean, it's very difficult, but women don't, just simply because of their sex, don't necessarily have an advantage over anybody else. I mean, I guess I don't really understand the question. I mean, what do they bring to bear? Well, they bring the Army values, the loyalty, selfless service, honor, the whole schmear. Women should be. Women can go to war if that's what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? An all volunteer force. Hoorah!
Okay. You often joke about being a scoundrel. Is there truth behind the title, or is it simply part of your storytelling style?
Oh, no, Darlington. You must remember that I am as pure as the driven snow. I mean, yes, I write fiction, but you always have to trust your storyteller. Okay? I mean, I am like I'm like an altar boy. It's like, I'm going to tell you, Darlington, what I told my date for the prom, okay? And that is simply this. Trust me. You see where I'm going with that, Darlington? Trust me. So, I mean, if you ask me if I'm a scoundrel, that kind of hurts a little bit there. You know what I'm saying? I'm really trying hard. But I'm enjoying myself, and yeah, good times. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, you have a story about a theft of a bulldozer that immediately grabs people's attention. Tell us the real story behind that.
Well, first of all, Darlington, I take exception to your word theft. Okay, that is a vulgar word, and scoundrels we don't talk like that. In the Army, it's called appropriation. where it's like you weren't using that thing that I needed to accomplish my mission. And because you didn't have your name on it, or you wasn't serial numbered, or it wasn't tied down, bolted down, guarded behind a chain link fence, or maybe it was, I was able to liberate it. Okay, so let's just not use the word theft because, yeah, it's no good. That's something that lawyers write down on pieces of paper when they're trying to like lock you away. Really don't like talking like that, Darlington. But at any rate, you see, that was the joke from the war, is that when I got called into the head shed, and my the operations officer, Major Posey, he knew that I would pretty much do anything because I really didn't care. And he told me about this D9 high track that was in a railroad yard in downtown Baghdad. And he asked me what I thought about going and getting it, because I had the tractor trailers, we had the low boys. I mean, we had lots of bulldozers, but the D9 high track, up armored, the Israeli Defense Forces call that the teddy bear. I mean, this thing was a beast. You know, we would barely be able to go get it. But he asked me what I thought about it, and I asked him this very dumb question. I'm like, whose is it, right? And here's the joke of the war, Darlington. He said, well, it says Caterpillar on the side of it, so it's America's. Go get it. So I did. And so that's in the book. It's chapter 6. And Scoundrels in Iraq and Engineers' Adventures. And so we brought it back. I got it back to the base. It wasn't a very long drive. And we hung about $30,000 worth of parts. And then the mechanics put about $30,000 worth of parts on the D9. And then we gave it to the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps, they already had one. And so we just gave it to them. I mean, we didn't want it. It was up armored, and the reason why is because it had ballistic glass in a turret style around the cab. Like I said, the one that was acquired, the Israelis called that "there's the teddy bear." At any rate, the Marines already had one, and so if they were going to assault a compound, what you want to do is you want to knock down the walls, right? So this thing could knock down buildings. You just knock out the corners of the buildings and the roof collapses, and then it drives over the roof. The reason why of the quote-unquote theft, Darlington, is to save the lives of American Marines. That's the why.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken. So here is my final question for you.
Okay.
For young men trying to navigate dating, relationships, and becoming better men, what's the advice you wish someone had given you when you were starting out?
Work hard. If you're not working hard, then you're losing. Make sure you've got an education. Use your brain. Okay. Use the gray matter that God put in between your ears, okay, and work. Don't sit on your butt. You got to make money. You got to make something of yourself so that you can take that girl out on a nice date, okay? So women don't want men who are just sitting on their fannies all day complaining, okay? Get up off your butt and go start a career, okay? It doesn't matter what it is. All work is honorable, but don't be a lazy bum, okay? Now, that will translate into your relationships because you'll be seriously minded. You're going to be accomplishing goals, right? And if your goal is to get married and have a family, then you're going to be looking for someone who also is a worker, okay? So have fun, but before you have fun, you got to get to work. That's my advice. The harder you work, Darlington, when you're young, the less hard you have to work when you're old. Like me. The old-ish. Yeah.
All right, sir Ken, thank you so much. Thank you
You
for
bet.
sharing your stories, your humor, and the unique perspective you have gained through a lifetime of service, adventure, and creativity. The ability to find laughter while exploring serious subjects makes for a truly memorable conversations. So for listeners who want to learn more about your books, videos, and upcoming projects, where can they find you and connect with your work?
They can go to kennydupar.com, go to my website. You can go to my YouTube channel, same thing, Kenny Dupar. And you can follow me on Facebook and Threads. Also, my books are available on Amazon and Audible. I narrated the audiobooks for my novels. They are Scoundrels in Iraq, An Engineer's Adventures, and Pinup Dolls and Classic Cars, A COVID Love Story by me, Kenny Dupar, or Colonel Kenny. That's my nom de guerre. Yeah. So right off the bat, I don't really take myself too seriously. It's been a pleasure, Darlington.
All right, thank you so much once again, and do have a wonderful day ahead.